Welcome to another fantastic episode of Beyond the Score podcast. I am your co-host Harry. Josh, say hi to our viewers.
What's going on, viewers? Welcome back.
Welcome back, welcome back. We are back from the Super Bowl. Um, that's all I want to say about that. Let's just get right into things. We had a little bit of a weird situation. The NBA trade deadline passed last week, and typically we don't see this happening, but a trade is being revoked by the team that wanted to make the trade. We're specifically talking about the Lakers and the Hornets making that swap for Dalton Connect and Mark Williams. The trade has been revoked at the moment. Currently, Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish are on the Lakers bench, and Mark Williams is on the Hornets bench.
He's
But
starting if he's playing for them, but I know what you mean.
but the Hornets, they have challenged this with the NBA currently. So what's currently happening right now is that the Hornets basically are like, we don't believe what the Lakers are saying is true about Mark Williams' physical. That is the reason why the Lakers are revoking the trade. They did not like Mark Williams' physical, 22-year-old center's physical, mind you. We're not talking about some 33-year-old old veteran. We're talking about a young second-year center here. Did not like their physical and decided to revoke the trade. Since it's currently being investigated by the NBA, the players that have returned back to their teams are currently waiting to see what happens. So right now, it's not a very good scenario for both teams because they can't use any of the players involved in this trade until this is figured out. There was also a pick swap of 2030 going to Charlotte, as well as a 2031 first round pick heading to Charlotte. It was a pretty big haul for Mark Williams. I know Mark Williams is promising center, and I think he would have fit well for the Lakers. But returning of Connect is a good player, and obviously getting a first round pick is big in today's NBA. Something sus is happening over here, and whether or not it's from the Lakers side of not liking the physical or the Hornets just making a mess of things and first welcoming back Mark Williams and now creating an investigation, making things a little bit more awkward for everyone involved. What do you think is really happening? I mean, what is the underlying thing and what will ultimately happen from this investigation?
What will ultimately happen will be whatever benefits the league the most, which getting the Lakers a big man is what benefits the league most. So I'm sure that they'll find a way to make it work because apparently everything with the Lakers is all big news, which is not a shock. It's just with the way our teams are playing, and just because they're in the small markets, the ever since Luca went there, it's like our teams don't exist anymore. But back to the trade, I think Mark Williams is a great player. Dalton Connect is a great player, but when it comes down to it, I think that the Lakers are going to be investigated after all this, even though the league it does well for the league when things are going well for them. I do think that between the way the Luka Doncic trade went down, that they were the only team that got to talk to them, and now this tomfoolery. I'm trying not to curse. I'm working on it.
I like that word, tomfoolery.
But I think that overall, this isn't something you see very often in any leagues, and I really want to hear your take on it too.
Well, the last two trades that have been revoked had involved the Lakers. The first one was 12 years ago that involved
Oh,
Chris
CP, right?
Paul,
Yeah.
right? Now, one thing you did say, and I'm kind of want to discuss this a little bit too, is that you say the Mark Williams trade benefits the Lakers, which it would if it was a trade that he was 100% healthy and the Lakers approved of it. But the Lakers are the ones who are saying we don't want to make this trade happen anymore because we don't like Mark Williams' physical, whatever's on that physical that caught their eye that they said this is questionable. I mean, the truth is, when you look at that Lakers roster and you kind of go down that front court, they moved Anthony Davis, and they don't have, even with Anthony Davis, they needed a big man. They got rid of Anthony Davis, and now they have Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura playing these big minutes. Looks like
Don't
Christian
forget OG Alex
Koloko.
Lenz. Alex Lenz in the building.
Alex Len is a bum. Seeing him get drafted first overall was one of the worst things I've ever experienced in sports. But
Alex
they have
Len
Christian.
drafted first. What?
We were at that draft. You do not remember in 2014 or 2013? It was
He was the first
2013.
overall pick.
2013. Oh no, I lied.
The first overall pick, Alex Len.
No, he
I don't
was
think
not.
that
He was
that's
not first overall pick. I apologize. I stat corrected myself there. It was we saw Anthony Bennett get selected first overall. But what was the
I was gonna
rumors?
say that's your own team,
What,
bro.
what
Come on.
was the rumors? You're right, it was my team. But what was the rumors that got me thinking Alex Len went first was that year it was projected Nerlens Noel was going to go one. Up until
Yeah,
probably 3 days before the draft, when they thought that there was a good chance Alex Len would go one. What ended up
that's crazy.
happening
Yeah,
was Anthony Bennett went one. Alex Len went. I'm pretty
5.
sure went five, and then Noel went six, I believe. So I was incorrect, but that's where my head was at. I just wanted to clarify that. But going
That was
back
a
to it,
draft of the torn ACL. Yeah,
he is not a good center. He is like a comparison of Darko Milicic. They do have Christian Coloco on the Lakers too, which I find him a little bit more of an interesting player. Um, I don't know if he's going to actually get significant minutes, but the truth is they don't have anybody. So they do need someone like Mark Williams, and Dalton Connect is a fine young player, having a very solid rookie year, and I think he'll have a very nice NBA career. But the Lakers don't have a center. They didn't want to make this trade after they realized the physical wasn't where they expected it to be for Mark Williams. And so, I have to look and see and what are the Lakers hoping to accomplish for the remainder of the season heading into a postseason where they're playing probably the best basketball they played as a team since they won the championship in 2020. So what are they going to do? Let's say the trade doesn't happen. Mark Williams back in Charlotte, they have Dalton Connect. And they're rummaging around Jackson Hayes, Alex Len, and Christian Coloco. Then they look at the free agent market and they see maybe Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, some guys that they might want to reunite with. There are no significant options that you could sit here and say
yeah.
this is going to be good enough for them to make a deep run and say, let's say they face OKC and they have to go against Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. There's no chance, right? And we're talking about a team that has Luka Doncic and LeBron James on the same team, yet their front court is disaster, and I don't know how it's going to end up holding up. This move, I agree, would put the Lakers in a better off spot right now to be a competitive team, make a run in the playoffs, but they didn't want it to happen. The league might say this is better for the Lakers, but there has to be something else that they're going to have to conclude with. Are they going to review the physical? Obviously, they're going to review the physical and see what was actually wrong with it. Are they going to determine, are the Lakers being a little bit too stingy and saying they're asking for too much on a physical where it's not as bad as they're saying it to be? Maybe it's not as perfect as it should be, but it's a workable physical. We're never going to know the exact details of that physical, but this is something that the NBA will evaluate with the Hornets and the Lakers.
Well, I
Probably do
think that
another physical too. I'm
that's
certain
what I
they'll
was
do
gonna
their, they're
say. I
going to do
think
their own physical
yeah,
as well. Compare the physicals. This is typically what would be done in a lot of scenarios when you're contesting the original document that states something, and then here's the other one from the new physician doing the new physical on Mark Williams and says, "Well, this is what I said. And it's not as bad as that one." And then they're going to compare and say, "All right, well, you know what? Trade good. Mark Williams, you're going to the Lakers. Dalton Connect. Cam Reddish, you're going to the Hornets, and those picks as well." And we all move on from there. I mean, I'm surprised more that the Hornets wanted to even make this move because Mark
yeah.
Williams, second year center, is putting up, a pre Laker trade, 16 and almost 10 boards per game, playing solid overall, young, on a rookie contract. You're a Hornets young team. What else could you really want? I mean, yes, Connect is a rookie, but you have guards. What you needed a center. So, anyways,
Yeah, but
I
I
want
don't
I
think
want to hear what
I
you think overall. I mean, how does this play out?
well, for the fit, I think that for a team, you wanna get shooters around LaMelo. I think that you with them, not saying that they're a championship contender anytime soon, but I feel like you wanna get shooters around LaMelo, and Connect looked like a perfect fit just like Cam Reddish. I think that what's gonna happen, they'll probably drop the 2031 pick from a first to a second. The Lakers will get something like that, or maybe it'll become they'll do something with the picks, but I think that I think they had a little buyer's remorse when they saw the actually, the Luka game was after, but I think they had a little buyer's remorse when they kinda looked at their team, knew that the everything with Doncic was gonna happen, and I think that, they needed it to be perfect, but it's not like the fact that Williams missed more than half of the games in his career to injury was news, but when the trade came out, so I think that when you look at it and you have him on the rookie contract and you agreed to a deal, I think that they should be held to it, and it remains to be seen if they will. But I think also you look at it as a whole. The reason why I say that it benefits the league if the Lakers do well is because of their market, and so they'll try to make it a trade that, all right, we'll hold you to this, but maybe the Hornets will send you a 2027 second or whatever.
So
I
you
think
think
that
there's
they'll
going to be a modification to the original trade that maybe the Hornets receive a little bit less than what they were getting originally, specifically the picks that are involved in that trade. You think maybe the swap can be taken back, or maybe the first goes to a second? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, slightly altered. I think maybe or maybe even another player just to kind of satisfy whatever, maybe another big body. But when it comes to what you said about the Hornets, they traded Nick Richards already. I think that they just look at they're very confident in their ability to develop big. So I think they're just gonna try again this year. Maybe there's a couple guys they really like in the draft. Maybe there's someone that we don't know about. Maybe they like what Diabate is doing. I'm not saying that he's gonna be a starting center that has numbers like Mark Williams did, but when you're at this point of the year and you know there are very few teams that don't make the playoffs and you already know you're going to be one of them and LaMelo's injured, I think that you try to build your team for next year in a way that you can in a way that you can look in a way that you could structure it around LaMelo, and then one name you could look at is Ace Bailey for them.
One thing I will contest is I don't think at this point there will be another player involved because we've passed the
Possible.
trade deadline. I don't
Mhm.
think there's going to be a possibility of an involvement of another player. But the picks, I think, could be a rearrange, and I think that's more likely anyway. I think the Lakers would be like,
Yeah.
we don't want any more contracts or any situations like that. If we, and I think the Lakers probably would do this. I think they'd be stupid not to. But if they took that first and converted it into a second, and the Hornets agreed, and the NBA stamped their approval on it, I say Lakers, you gotta take it. You gotta give LeBron his opportunity this season at least to
Yeah.
do something, right? I mean, you make this move now with Luca. You still have LeBron. You kept him. This is your 30. What they're like 32 and 19. They're in the middle of the Western Conference. I think they're fourth seed right now. They got
Yeah.
to make a run, and they're not going to do that without a center. They're not going to be able to beat the Denver
Yeah.
Nuggets or the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Minnesota Timberwolves if there's nobody able to guard their big men. So I don't think that's going to
Yeah.
happen at all. I think they have to. And you know what? I think now talking about it a little bit more, you kind of have more epiphanies. I think maybe that's what,
Yeah.
and this should be its own investigation. Maybe I think the Lakers probably are like we gave a little too much, and maybe if
Yeah.
we make this whole big deal happen and the Hornets try to push through, we renegotiate, we get a first back and turn it into a second. It's very possible, and you feel like the Lakers are like running this league at that point. It's like they get
Yeah.
whatever they
For
want, but I think that ultimately is a very high possible chance of happening. It's just odd because as soon as the revokement happened and the players went back to their original teams, the Hornets released a statement and they said, "We're so happy to welcome back Mark Williams into our organization. He's a fine young man," something along those lines. And in that tweet, they also kind of digged at the Lakers and they said the other team involved. They didn't even name the Lakers. They said the other team involved, basically
Yeah.
slapping around that organization. They're the Charlotte Hornets, right? They're one of the worst franchises in sports, in American sports. We're talking about a team that
Yeah.
hasn't been around too long and hasn't made deep playoff runs ever.
Yeah.
And trying to figure it out for themselves, making a path in the NBA. They have LaMelo Ball, but other than that, I mean, you're not. We took this preseason for the NBA, and we had the Charlotte Hornets fighting for a play-in spot.
Yeah.
They're nowhere close to fighting for a playoff spot.
They're fighting
They're
for the number 1 pick right now.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. They are in battle with the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz to lock up the number one spot in the draft. And with that being said, when you make a move like this, and the Lakers are involved on the other side, typically it's unfortunate, but the leagues tend to side with the teams that are bigger, that are that have more money, that are bigger fan bases, that are bigger organizations. It's just
Yeah.
typically the way it happens. Uh, Not sure if the Hornets are gonna come out with anything after this happens and say, well, we're happy with the results or we're not happy with the results. It's to be determined. I mean, I'll be following this pretty closely because I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. Probably any day now we'll have an update because they're not going to let this thing stay on too long. This is obviously a very time sensitive thing when you're involved with players who aren't even supposed to be on a team potentially on that team right now, and just waiting to see what happens, what Adam Silver says, because he's ultimately in control of these decisions. But it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens. The trade deadline has passed, and we set sail to the postseason for the NBA. I do have to say quickly, I do love. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it because that move didn't happen yet. I do love what my team did, acquiring DeAndre Hunter. I think it's going to pay off big time, and I really hope that
He's
our
such a stud.
teams, Thunder and the Cavs, see each other in the finals. That would be a dream come true. That
Yeah,
would be
man.
a special episode on our podcast, having it from one of those stadiums, either in Oklahoma City or in Cleveland, or maybe both. We might do both,
That that would be cool.
but we're gonna have to figure out something to happen. I mean, both our teams are the one seeds. They both have a combined 19 losses, which is pretty astounding at this point in the season. We're approaching the All Star break, but it's a fun time to be a Thunder and a Cavs fan. I will say this: watching really good basketball happen, and our teams are preparing for the second half of the season and the postseason runs that they're supposed to be on. Anything else you wanted to wrap up in regards to some of this NBA talk?
Just I don't really think we talked much about Jimmy Butler after the fact. Actually, there was no real time to it because we spoke about it last time. He went to Golden State and he looks like a fool for not saying that he wouldn't sign an extension because he fits like a glove.
It's funny because he ended up ultimately signing an extension. I thought that fit was
I
going
didn't
to
even
make the
know that he
most
did.
sense.
That's funny.
He did. He signed a 2-year, $112 million extension at
Baby, I'm
34 years old. Good for him. Said he
yeah.
wouldn't sign it, signed it, and he does fit like a glove. I don't think that they're going to do much this season in particular. I think they have a few more holes, but they'll make the playoffs or the play-in at least. And you never know what happens when Steph Curry's in the postseason. That's another animal that you know one game takes off, and you look back, and all of a sudden the Warriors are in the second round of the postseason, and you're like, what is happening here? So Jimmy Butler, I mean, good luck with you. I'm sorry it didn't work out in Miami. You're obviously a hell of a player, and Pat Riley is somewhat of a geriatric who sometimes says things he shouldn't say. It's the world we live in. People talk too much, and it's part of what we do. But
Yeah.
we move on. I mean, we'll bring you guys some more NBA as we get closer to the postseason. But one thing that is coming back, and you and I are extremely excited about this: baseball. Now that football season's over, baseball is the talk. And the season is not beginning, but pitchers and catchers have reported, and it's getting there, man. I feel it. I feel it. I mean, what are we? It's February 12th now. In
Hmm.
6 weeks, we'll be able to say opening days here. Wow,
Yeah.
man. Wow, I can't wait. And so, what we wanted to do was we kind of wanted to go over where we think our teams stand in terms of the divisions. We're going to go over fifth to first in each division. Let's start that off, and then we'll kind of go over. We'll do a little summary for the divisions after we finish them up. So, why don't we start? You want to go first with your rankings of. Let's go with the American League, and then we'll go to the NL.
Yeah. Let's do it. You
AL
want to do division
East.
by division or
AL East. Let's do the AL East first.
so in the basement I have the Toronto Blue Jays, followed by the
Oh,
Tampa Bay
wow.
Rays, followed by the Boston Red Sox, followed by the Baltimore Orioles, and the Yankees taking the cake.
Let's hear why you have it that set up that way. I'm very curious because mine's a little different than that.
Because I think Toronto is in a really weird spot right now, and I don't think that everything going on over there is I don't think they did anything that would be earth-shattering to think that this year will be much different than last year, and you could argue that they're in the best division in baseball. I mean, I think every team will finish with above 75 wins, but 75 wins will not get you out of the basement of the AL East, and I think that it'll be really close. I think that the Rays could I wouldn't be surprised if the Rays finished last, but I think that the Yankees and Orioles will be the class of the division for a while. I think Boston's gonna be Boston's gonna be right around. They're gonna it's gonna be the top three records are gonna be close, and then the bottom two records are gonna be close. And as much as I don't like Boston, I think they made a couple improvements that'll make them a little better. But I don't think that the Orioles are going to get enough love from the media, and I think that's okay. I think Adley takes a big step, and I think that yeah, I think they do it.
The Orioles are not going to get a lot of love from the media and from me either, because here's my list. I have the Rays as a 5 seed. I have Baltimore as the 4 seed. The Boston Red Sox number 3. The Blue Jays number 2. And the Yankees number 1. I hear what you're saying about the Blue Jays. I understand it. I think, they made a couple of moves. They bring in Andres Jimenez. I think that's going to help their infield out tremendously and kind of bring a lot of security with the defense and the solid offense that he brings. Max Scherzer is kind of a question mark, but I think they've had good pieces. It's just a matter about them staying healthy and playing together. And I've talked about this in other sports about how being healthy is very important. But I just see the Orioles as a team that's lost too much. When you lose Corbin Burns and Anthony Santander, and they lost somebody else too this offseason, and I mean, they didn't really add much. I don't see, because they were so far off from the Yankees, in my opinion. And I think the Red Sox have made enough improvements where they'll climb up a little bit. But I think in the long term, the Orioles will have a lot of success. I just think that in 2025, they're taking a step back. They're probably going to be a team around 500, maybe a couple of games over. I think the division is going to be very competitive. But that's where I put them. Obviously, this is a very raw list, and who
Yeah,
knows what happens at the end of a game 162, and we'll see that obviously then. Because this is fun, though. I like the fact that we started off pretty different here. I mean, the Yankees being first is pretty unanimous. I think anybody would have them on there, unless you're just a hater, which there
yeah.
are a lot of, and you haters out there are just going to keep hating. I'm talking to you Mets and Red
Haters don't
Sox
hate.
fans mostly, because you guys are absolute haters. And then, obviously the Rays being in last place, it just seems like they're in one of those years where it could be like a recycle type of year for them. But let's move on to the Central. What
Yeah,
do you got for the Central?
yeah. So I got the White Sox at the bottom, then the Twins, then the Tigers, then the Guardians, and the Royals winning it.
Holy shit. Bang, bang, 5 for 5. We're identical on that one. That's crazy. That's not that crazy. I mean, it's understandable, so it's not crazy. But
Yeah,
I want to hear. I
I
want to
think that
hear your why you picked why. These teams in these spots.
yeah, I mean, I just think the Royals are doing everything the right way. I think that the move for trading Singer for India, I think gives them a little more stability with Bobby Witt up the middle, and I think that the way they play the game, they pitch really well even without Singer. They still have Lugo, they got Reagans, and they finally got their closer. I feel like the back end of the bullpen is the reason why um, you can say that the fact of that is that they finished what? They finished like 5, 6 games out. I think that you could say that bullpen very well cost them that, and I think that having having the best offense in the division and the best defense in terms of numbers, not in terms of you could argue Cleveland competes in both. I think in terms of the numbers per game, I think that the Royals being ahead, I think that all their young guys are going to take a step forward. I think Lugo is going to be great in that big ballpark again. Reagans is going to be pushing for a Cy Young, and I think that that division's gonna be really fun down the stretch too. All four of the top teams should be around 83 to 86 wins.
So the White Sox suck.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that,
Just
but that's
wanted
fine.
to just wanted to acknowledge them, and the truth behind it is that they're not a good team, and that's fine. They have a couple of good prospects, and it'll be a couple of years for them. But I agree with the rest of the division. I mean, they had 3 playoff teams out of that division last year. I do
Yeah,
believe definitively that Bobby Witt is the best player in that division. He plays for the Royals. And I think the Guardians are a good team, but they're going to be competing a lot more over the regular season with these Royals, who, like you said, have made some really good moves. They filled out that back end of that bullpen, and Jonathan India was a good move because they already had a good rotation. They didn't need to keep Brady Singer, and they just added a very solid young second baseman to their lineup. That's going to be a very nice combination with Bobby Witt. And that's one of the main reasons why I have them as the 1 seed. I think the Tigers have a very promising future. Colt Keith is great. Kerry Carpenter is great. They definitely need a little bit more help pitching wise because as much as Tariq Skubal is definitively one of the best pitchers in the American League, there's not really much there afterwards. So if they can add a little bit more to that rotation, those Tigers over the next couple of years, you'll see them climbing those ranks in that AL Central. But Bang bang, 5 for 5 on that
Yeah,
division.
I think Jack Flaherty coming back will help, but I think that we saw what that looks like as a team, and I think that they need another one.
I do. I mean, Jack Flaherty could be someone that has an ERA in the threes, has an ERA in the five. So you really don't know what you're going to get until you see the first couple of months of him. And even then, excuse me, it's still a question mark. But you could assume that if he's starting off strong, that he'll continue on strong for the rest of that season. So good luck to those Tigers. I would hope out of those three teams that they make the most noise. I think that would be a lot of fun to see, just like they did last season at the very end. They really just took over that division. But let's go on to the AL West. What do you got for the AL West?
Yeah, so I got the Angels in the basement, then the A's, then the Astros in third and missing the playoffs, then the Rangers, then the Mariners
Bang
taking it home
bang.
and finally breaking
Bang
their
bang.
drought.
Bang bang, we're 5 for 5 again. That's crazy. We did not rehearse this, just to let you guys know. I mean, we did get the
Honestly,
first one wrong, but the
in
last
Harry's
two.
in Harry's monologue before baseball, I wrote it down like just then, so we hadn't even spoken about it at all.
Right, and I have mine on, my iPad right here, so don't worry.
All right, Mr.
But
Fan.
good list. I agree, 100%. Obviously, give us your evaluation. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Mariners make it. Rest of the division falls apart. What's happening?
I just think the Rangers can't be trusted. They've shown they have a lot of holes that they have a lot of upside too, but they have a lot of holes. I do think that they'll be a wild card team this year. I know we're not really getting into that, but um, having them miss the playoffs wasn't something that I was looking to do. But I think the Mariners, with that rotation, with just keeping everything solid, I think that another year of that rotation and another year of experience for all their guys, and I think they look at this at the way they start in April and early May, and they be bold and they make a move because they know with Kyle Tucker gone, Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes are good players, but they're not him. They don't. The both of them combined don't replace him, and you're gonna have to kick the Astros while they're down because they'll find their way back up if you let them in. Just like last year when they blew their lead, I think they're gonna learn from that. I think they're gonna take every game all the way to the end seriously, and I think that it'll be a 4 to 6 game victory.
So when I look at that division, I too do not trust those Rangers. They could be a second place team in that division and only win 80 games. Astros getting rid of Kyle Tucker was, I think, going to hurt them more than they ever thought. And I think that this season is going to be a season where they fall in the middle of that division, mainly because the teams below them are pretty bad. I think Oakland's not as bad as the Angels are. I think the Angels are probably one of the most disastrous teams in baseball. And I think the A's have a lot of young guys where, maybe they're starting to get over that time period of where there was a lot of frustration with that organization. Now that things are starting to move on from that, and the changes are happening, maybe they could look forward to a brighter future. Zach Geloff, I think, is going to take a nice big step for that team. And it's finally time for those Mariners to get back into the playoffs. They missed out on a lot. They have a really good rotation. They have a couple of great pieces on that offense. So it's a matter of time before things settle in their favor. And I think we both think that this is their year. But we can kind of shift on that AL, and we're going to be
Yeah,
excited to
absolutely.
kind of talk more about baseball when the season begins and see where these lists
I'm
end
so
up
excited.
actually staying forward. And we'll obviously do a postseason run as well. But let's shift on to the National League, the NL East. Um,
You start go first for the National
I
League.
don't. I really don't like the NL East at all. I really don't. I'm looking at these teams like, damn, I do not like these teams at all.
The
Um, I
Nats are kind of cool.
I do have the Marlins in the basement. On top of them, I have maybe a little bit of a shocker: the Atlanta Braves in fourth. Number three, I got the Nationals. At two, I have the Mets, and one, I have the Philadelphia Phillies. Reason why I have this, I think the Braves are in a funky year. And baseball is about even the best teams and best organizations go on these funky years where they've been trending down. I know that they're getting Acuna back, but they've been kind of shedding off some salaries, getting rid of some players, and this is a little bit of a different Atlanta Braves team. In this division, they could win 80 games as a fourth seed. I think that the reason I put the Nationals above them is because they're young guys who have started really. I mean, they were great prospects, and now they're starting to make a name for themselves. They come out and they play the way that they're supposed to play. That division is going to be a lot more intriguing than we think it's going to be. I have the Mets at number two. Don't think that they're a complete team like the Phillies are. I think the Phillies are a very complete team, probably the second most complete team in the National League. And I think the Mets just will fall into that second seed in that NL. I think ultimately they'll make the playoffs, but in terms of where the teams rank, in terms of what's on paper and what they've done so far. It's a safer bet to put the Phillies as the 1 seed right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that well, for mine, I didn't read mine off before you said yours, but I got the Marlins last, then the Nationals, then the Mets at third, then the Phillies second, and the Braves first.
Oh
And
boy,
I could not I
disagree
think that
more.
yeah, I could not disagree more with the sense that the I think that last year was the fluke year where Strider got injured, Acuna got injured. They brought in Profar. They're going to get Strider and Acuna back, and last year they still won 89 games with that. So I think that they have a lot to be excited about. I think that everyone's going to be looking at. Well, I mean, obviously Soto's a great player, but everyone's gonna be looking for the Mets to break out. But the other teams are gonna be going into City Field with the target on their head, knowing, oh, you spent all this money on this player, a great player nonetheless, but we want to make sure you know that this is still our time. This is still we're still in control, and I think that the Braves win the division. I think the Phillies make the playoffs, and I do think the Mets can make the playoffs too. I don't know. I didn't really think about whether they were going to make the playoffs or not. I just thought, like you said, I think the Phillies are a more complete team than the Mets are. I think they might have a couple moves to make when the trade deadline comes around, but they've shown that they can win games consistently. I've been a doubter of them for a year or two at opening day, and then when it came around, they just always knew how to get it done. Bryce Harper's a stud, Trey Turner's a stud, and it seems like they really know what they're doing there. Plus, they have great pitching. Former Met Zach Wheeler is in the form of his life, as well as Aaron Nola too. I just think that the Braves right now, it might they're gonna sneak up on people. I'm not I'm not mad at the take that you think that they're gonna be low in the division, but I just think that last year was the year, and nobody was really watching them because honestly, the between the Mets with the Jose Iglesias stuff and all, there were a bunch of other surprises around the league that the Braves being injured and the style of baseball wasn't great, but they were developing a lot of young players. And young catcher Drake Baldwin's going to come up. Schwellenbach's got another year of experience under his belt, and I think they got a couple other guys that'll come up too, as well as I think bringing in Profar gives them the versatility to give guys days off. And Baldwin being up will also get Sean Murphy some rest and hopefully keep him healthy.
Well, I'm excited to debate you more on this as the season gets along, but we do have to
Sure.
get into the Central and then into the West, and then we kind of have to wrap up a little bit. So let's kind of speed through here a little bit. We have the AL Central. I'll start off in the basement. St. Louis. 4, I have the Cincinnati Reds. 3, Pittsburgh. 2, Milwaukee. And 1, the Cubs. I think this is going to be the most intriguing
We're
division
close. We're
in
close. I
baseball.
just
I
I just
think
have
the
the
main
Brewers one and the Cubs two. We're close though.
and you know what? That was probably the one thing that I was really going back and forth with. I think that Kyle Tucker trade really puts the Cubs in a really competitive position. The Brewers are a great team, and I wouldn't be surprised if those swap around.
Mhm.
But I think where the Cubs stand rotational wise, their offense is starting to look like a much better and complete team. That the division was one that was always up in the air every year you go down, and I think this is where we kind of see that play out where the Cubs come back and take that division. But if it was the Brewers, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I think that it's gonna come down to the performance of Cade Horton. I think that he's someone that he has high upside to be an ace there if he comes out gunning this year. And Ben Brown too. He's another guy, but I think Cade
Justin
Horton's the real
Steele,
key. Hmm?
Justin Steele.
No. I'm just saying the prospects that haven't come up yet. I'm
Oh,
not
I
talking
see, I see,
about.
I see.
So I think that those guys could propel them over the Brewers, but I don't think it's this year. I think it's next year. And then if they don't keep Kyle Tucker, then it might not be at all.
Let's finalize it with the West. Colorado is in my basement. 4, I have Arizona. 3, San Francisco Giants. 2, the Padres, and 1, no shit, the Dodgers. Um, yeah, I mean, the Dodgers have the Warriors of the 2016, 2017 years of baseball, and it's no surprise. The Padres are a good team. Giants are a good team. Diamondbacks could be a good team, but they're all going to be fighting for a wild card spot, in my opinion.
I think that I have the Rockies 5, Giants 4, D-backs 3, Padres 2, and Dodgers 1.
Okay,
Um,
so swap
I
3
don't
and 4 for us.
yeah, I don't really think that I don't really think that the Padres should go too far backwards from 93 wins.
Hmm.
I think that the Giants have a lot to prove to show that they're an above 500 team consistently for a whole year. I think bringing in Buster Posey will give a winning culture and show them how to win the right way.
Maybe
But
if he
it's going to
suits
take
up behind the plate.
or gets in the DH spot. But I think it's going to take some time, and I think that it's going to be a process that's worth waiting for because those Giants always play the Dodgers tough, and no matter how good the Dodgers get, rivalries get chippy, and they could be a team that fights with the Dodgers a couple years down the line. But right now, that's how I see it going.
Rivalries in sports are a beautiful thing, and the San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers have one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports. So, yes, they play them hard. It'll be fun to see. I agree. The Padres will still be a 90-plus win team, and that division, it'll be a competitive one, at least from 2 to 4 down.
Yeah.
But that's where we stand in terms of the
It's savage.
MLB.
Just say sorry. Just saying it's not going to be competitive. You think how many games do you think the Dodgers win by? Over,
143.
under, over or under? Realistically, winning the division by 8.5 games.
Over.
Over.
I do. Yeah, I do. I think it was, what, 7 games this year anyway, last season, whatever it was. But
It was 5.
it was 5? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't know what the Padres really did to improve their team other than lose Jerkson Profar. So, well, it's still a good team. We'll see what happens with
Yeah.
them. But we want to get into something a little fun this time. We're going to do a little something different. And this is going to be specifically so we can put something nice on social media for you guys to see. We're going to do a one-word response. Josh picked these topics. He's going to read them off to me. And I am going to give you guys my first thing that comes to my head on that topic. One word. And we're going to start. Ben knows about this, so he's going to do his thing, getting us back and forth. Josh, you start. Tell me what you want to start with, and I'll let you know what I think about that in one word.
All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Super Bowl 59.
Terrible.
Pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training.
Giddy.
The Dodgers using Japan as a direct pipeline.
Cheaters.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's 2024-25 season.
Does this count? MVP?
That was what mine was too, because I thought I had to think of it too. NBA load management.
Bogus.
4 nations face off.
Is that a hockey thing?
March Madness being only a month away.
Woohoo!
And you saw it here first. Which one did you like the most? Comment on this post to give us some topics for next week. Give us as many as you want. We will line up the best up to 10 and use them next time.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Beyond the Score podcast. We wanted to bring you guys something a little different this time with that little bit at the end over there. We appreciate you guys. We love it when you guys call us crazy, especially when you call me crazy. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. What else do we got? X. You can find us on all of them. I kind of just took Josh's job over there at the end there, but I felt confident. I said I got to just put it out there. That's where you can find us, and I hope you guys can find us there. Josh, you want to give any more love to our fans real quick?
Just me and Harry will try and make a video or two. He's coming up for Savannah's first birthday party this weekend, so we'll try and see if we can make something funny for you.
We'll try our best to do something good, and we can't let you guys go without our famous Yogiisms. This week's Yogiism: no one goes there nowadays. It's too crowded. Josh, I want you to rate that because we've used it before on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounded familiar. I like that as a strong 7, soft 8 maybe, so 7.5.
Okay, we'll take it, a 7.5. Thank you guys again for tuning in this week. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a blessed rest of your weekend.